Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to everyone joining us this evening. Thank you for being here with us, and I sincerely appreciate you have chosen to put aside the time tonight to be with us. I'm delighted at such a turnout. My name is Gashi. I'm a member of the NIIM Advisory Board, and I'm honoured to have the opportunity to be your host for the evening. We're fortunate to have 4 inspirational speakers tonight, and I will do my best as the MC to make this evening as informative, educational, and fun. So our topic tonight is achieving your health and wellbeing goals. Hopefully you're in the right session. And it's with our NIIM clinicians who will share their professional knowledge, wisdom, and experience. This topic is close to my heart, as I'm also a keen triathlete and a free diver with a passion for the environment, health, and wellness. But it hasn't always been that way. As a technology and business executive, I've been fortunate to have an amazing career spanning 31 years in an industry that is fun, fast-paced, educational, and eye-opening. However, that does come at a cost. And I myself had a wake-up call when I was 36 after a couple of health-related scares. Not surprisingly, these were related to stresses of being in a fast-paced industry, and I was always on and neglecting nutrition, health, and generally not looking after myself. So I had to take control, and I did that with the help of advice from various specialists as well as NIIM. And the advice was prevention is better than a cure. So my goal was to get healthy and build resilience, which I found through nutrition, exercise, and engaging in endurance sports, but mostly by regularly investing in my own wellness proactively. At NIIM, we want to help you take control and be responsible for your own health. And some of the topics tonight were pivotal to me in achieving my own health and well-being goals. And hopefully you find the same. NIIM has over 20 healthcare professionals, including doctors and allied health professionals, offering a wide range of services and treatments, as well as a dispensary support to you. If you're a member of Friends of NIIM, you'll be receiving regular online updates from us. But for those who are not a member, I encourage you to join NIIM, the NIIM community. You will receive all of the offerings, including free educational events and latest health research. Please go to our website, which I'm sure you'll find on the invite, but www.niim.com.au, and join online. It's free. And now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Lisa Barker, osteopath. Following her osteopathic training, Lisa completed a master's degree in the biomechanics of sporting injuries. In addition to her busy private practice, Lisa has continued lecturing and supervising osteopathic clinical studies at universities in Sydney and Melbourne. And I wish I met her a number of years ago before I started my triathlon career. Her topics tonight is prevention is better than cure. Please welcome Lisa.
Thanks, Rob. So as Rob said, my name is Lisa. I'm an osteopath here at NIIM, and I've been practicing as an osteopath for 20 years now, both in private practice and academia. And I have a focus on prevention and treatment and management of musculoskeletal ailments, and obviously optimal body functioning. So tonight's topic, we're looking at achieving your health and wellbeing goals, and my focus will be on prevention and treatment of musculoskeletal ailments and how you can best achieve optimal body functioning. And preventative healthcare is a really integral part of the healthcare model. It basically encourages you to make positive lifestyle changes, which then gives you the best chance of avoiding chronic injuries. And part of this is routine checkups and assessments. They're an integral part of preventative healthcare. And those routine checkups and assessments basically allow health matters to be identified. And then once they're identified, it allows you to experience the value of early detection through timely treatment. And research has shown that early intervention both improves patient outcomes and also spares the patient and the health system of avoidable illnesses and treatment. So my focus in practice is obviously the musculoskeletal system. And tonight I'm going to focus on your physical body. Your body is an incredibly complex and finely tuned machine composed of many different parts which all work together, and it can operate at different speeds, rhythms, dynamics, and qualities. And when it functions well, it performs its actions smoothly and efficiently. However, when it isn't functioning well, movements can feel difficult, awkward, painful, injuries can arise, and activities of daily living can be compromised. So how do we keep our body functioning well? Well, as mentioned just before, your body is like a finely tuned machine, and it's your vehicle throughout your lifespan. So if we have a look at the other major vehicle in your life, your motor vehicle, and we look at the steps that you take to ensure that your motor vehicle runs smoothly and has maximum longevity, and we apply those principles to the most important vehicle, and that being our body. So I'm just going to attempt to share a slide. Are we up? Yep. Okay. So, oh, we're not up.
Lovely.
Perfect. Thanks, James. Sorry, obviously technology is not my my forte. As a result, I've only got one very basic slide tonight, sorry. But I want to have a look at how the 6 steps that we take to basically ensure our motor vehicle runs smoothly and apply those principles to our body. So number 1, we look at fuel. We know that putting high octane fuel in your car allows your car to run smoother, and in turn you get better gas mileage. Now, the same goes for your body. If you fuel your body with healthy foods, high in nutrients, your body will respond by functioning more efficiently. And Megan, our naturopath, will obviously speak further on that tonight. That's it, stop share. Our next point is alignment and servicing. So your car requires proper alignment to drive safely and also to prevent excessive wear on the tyres. And the same goes for your bodies. The muscles, ligaments and tendons provide support of your joints. The joints then allow movement. Now, if your joints are out of alignment, then sprains and strains can develop, can result in decreased performance and injury as well. So regular treatment with a manual therapist will aid in maintaining that alignment and preventing injury. Now, we all hate paying for a service. It seems like such a waste of money. However, we spend money on a service to save money in the long run. So paying an expert to quickly identify any issues and fix them basically avoids a major breakdown and financial stress down the track as well. So just like your car, maintaining your body's health and fitness is basically your body's way of getting a regular service and the best way to avoid a breakdown. Third one is to check your tyres. Now, we know that a little tread on your tyres doesn't mean it's safe to keep driving on them. And the same goes for your body. The footwear is basically your body's equivalent of the tyres on your car. Footwear is designed to basically cushion and impact the weight-bearing forces through your ligaments, tendons, bones, and joints of the lower limb. And so when you wear out your footwear, you're basically increasing the load through the lower limb and in turn through the spine, which can result then in injury and pain and discomfort. So ensuring protective and supportive footwear to cushion, shock absorb the forces on the lower limb and spine is very important. Next, we have drive your car regularly. So we know that if you leave your car sitting in the driveway without driving it for prolonged periods, the car fails to start, and it's typically due to a failure with the fluid pump. And the same goes for your body. Prolonged periods of time stationary result in decreased fluid flow and in turn difficulty with movement. So being active is one of the best things that you can do to prevent ongoing musculoskeletal ailments. And research has shown time and time again the benefits, both mental and physical, of regular exercise. So we know that it lubricates the joints, it maintains muscle flexibility, it increases blood flow, increases toxin removal through the body, and releases endorphins. So the World Health Organization recommends that an adult perform 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. So if we break that down, that's about 20 to 40 minutes of moderate intensity exercise daily. Now that is a combination of both cardiovascular and resistance training. And they do recommend that at least 2 sessions out of your weekly sessions are for resistance or strength training. So resistance or strength training is really important for the aging process. We know the normal part of the aging process is muscle mass loss and decreased bone density. So resistance training can basically reverse this. With continued use and load, the body adapts and changes to accommodate this. That then results in the body getting stronger, and we see increased tendon and ligament thickness, increased muscle mass, and increased bone density. Now, examples of how you can do resistance training would be free weights, weight machines. You can use your own body weight, medicine balls, resistance bands. So there's lots that you can do that doesn't involve having to go to a gym. So in regards to driving your car regularly, the key is for an adult, 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. And if you can aim to fit that into your lifestyle with a combination of cardiovascular and strength training, it will increase strength, resilience, and in turn, longevity. Next one, is support team and pit crew. So we know that cars that win races have a fantastic support team. They have a support team of mechanics, auto electricians, suspension and tyre guys that are constantly tuning and tweaking. Thanks, James. Constantly tweaking and tuning the car for optimal performance. And the same goes for... You're clicking something. Thanks, James. The same goes for your body. If you think of your osteopath, your psychologist, your naturopath, or your integrative GP as your support crew, and engage them to tweak and tune your body for optimal performance. So you don't have to do it alone. There's a team around you, and that's what we're here for. So engage us to help you achieve your optimal health goals. And lastly, think safety. So when you're registering an old vehicle or selling your vehicle, you're required to get a roadworthy. And reason being, a faulty car can cause damage not only to you, but other road users. And the same goes for your body. If you fail to take care of your body, you're essentially making yourself unroadworthy, and then in turn running the risk of serious health issues. So our 6 points: number 1 is fuel. Number 2, alignment and servicing. Number 3, your tyre check. Number 4, drive your car regularly. Number 5, engage your support team and pit crew. And number 6, think safety. So in conclusion, I guess our bodies are the most valuable thing we own. They are our vehicles for the duration of our lifespan. So whether your body is like a 1984 beat up old Tirana or a 2021 Roma Ferrari, the same principles apply. Invest in your vehicle by giving it the right fuel, keep it running frequently and strong, and give it regular checkups. And that will ensure that you get optimal mileage from your body throughout your lifespan. Thanks, Rob. And James for the tech help.
That was excellent. Thank you, Lisa. And I'd love to think that I'm a Roma Ferrari, but I think I'm an old Tirana. So I'm sure that everybody enjoyed that and provided many health tips that and suggestions tonight. And having practiced what you enlightened us with tonight, it certainly helped me. So hopefully it's the same for everyone else. Thank you again, Lisa.
Thanks, Rob.
So on to our second speaker. So it's I'm delighted to welcome Megan Reilly, integrative and naturopathic practitioner here at NIIM, nutritionist and herbalist. I've met Megan, I've known her for a number of years. Megan is a highly trained healthcare professional. She continued to invest the time with ongoing professional education and development at the highest level to ensure outstanding patient care. And I'm personally excited to hear about her latest insight. I always come back having learned something new. Her topic tonight is, what does preventive medicine look like for you? Welcome, Megan. Yep.
Is that working now?
Sure is.
Excellent, excellent. I just will share the screen. All right, so I'll launch straight into it because I do have a few slides to get through tonight. So first of all, what is preventative medicine? So preventative medicine is a practice that is designed to prevent the occurrence of a disease or halt the progression of a disease and avert any resulting complications. Ultimately, it takes a proactive approach to healthcare. So the world runs on healthy people, yet the healthy are not always so health conscious or aware of their need to be free of disease until they actually have a disease. So this can result in people devaluing preventative medicine. Preventative medicine is important because a lot of the chronic diseases that are listed in this slide here, so diabetes, heart disease, cancer, are linked to lifestyle factors. The prevalence of chronic disease around the world is very high, and it is simply not sustainable by most healthcare systems. So whilst the etiology of a lot of these diseases are extremely complex, it is certainly thought to be preventable through lifestyle practices and lifelong practices, and these are the ones that I wanted to talk about this evening. So remembering, the focus is on the whole person and the many contributing factors towards their own health, and that good health is not just the absence of disease. This was a paper that was published in the Lancet. It was a systematic analysis for the Global Burden of Disease study. The study aimed to evaluate food and nutrients across 195 different countries, and the idea being that this would actually create a platform for the evaluation of human health. And what we can see here is that in 2017, there were literally 11 million deaths that were attributed to dietary risk factors. So a high intake of sodium, a low intake of whole grains, and a low intake of fruits were actually the leading dietary risk factors for deaths. And it was thought in this same study that an improvement of diet could potentially prevent 1 in every 5 deaths globally. We can also see that it's stated that less than 1 in 10 adults actually meet the daily requirement of vegetables. This really here is just a pictorial representation of what I just talked about. So that top study there, you can see the risk factors. So on the left-hand side, it's going through dietary risks being at the top there. Second to that, blood pressure, tobacco use, high blood sugar levels, air pollution, and so on. And that you can see the number of deaths down the bottom. So clearly this is, as I said, just that pictorial representation telling us of all of these different modifiable risk factors. But those 11 million deaths worldwide were dietary, and then, you know, high blood pressure was second to that, tobacco use was after that one. Next slide. I'm not going to go into any detail about diet here, just because it's really beyond the scope of tonight's presentation. So I've just listed a few points in here. Ultimately, there is no one-size diet that's going to fit everyone. It's really much more about, once again, the practice of individualized medicine. So as a naturopath, for me, it's about taking that person's case history, looking at their likes and dislikes, assessing any blood tests that they've had done. So if there's any nutritional deficiencies that might be slowing things down, then we need to design a diet around that. And then obviously looking at any genetic impacts and then developing a diet plan from there. This next slide was really more just a list of empty calories. So unfortunately in the Western world, people tend to be eating a huge amounts of all of these different types of foods, and then less of all of those really nutritional foods. And then that in turn is going to result in massive nutritional deficiencies, and then obviously, you know, overweight and diabetes, and contribute to other chronic diseases. So it is important to be then consuming less of all of those foods. The next point that I wanted to discuss here is that of physical activity. So obviously Lisa's already mentioned this already, and I've just given some studies to, I guess, prove all of this as well. So we can see here that lack of exercise is a major cause of chronic disease and results in substantial decreases in both total and quality of life. In 2012, there was a meta-analysis that was published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute that showed that physical activity is associated with a reduced risk, so anywhere from 41 to 61%, of all-cause breast and colon cancer specific mortality. We can also see from another study that more than 40% of colorectal cancer cases in the Western countries could be prevented by diet, physical activity, and normal body weight. So pretty scary stuff. We can see there that the Australian Bureau of Statistics, once again, we can see that Australians are simply not meeting any of, you know, they're just not meeting those recommended guidelines. Getting enough sleep is another, I think, pillar of wellness and preventative medicine. Because it's going to be really important for us to be able to, obviously, it's not only going to be essential for good health, but also for coping with stress better. This was another study, and this was a particularly significant study. This was 1.2 million people. It was published in 2020, and it ran from 2013 to 2016. And it showed that sleep, in terms of sleep, there was a U-shaped curve. So if you didn't get enough sleep, then that was a problem. Likewise, if you had too much sleep, that was a problem. And we can see quite clearly from the research that there was a higher risk of obesity, diabetes, asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, arthritis, kidney disease, stroke, cancer, and coronary artery disease, with that kind of U-shaped curve in terms of sleep. And interestingly enough, it showed, which is quite scary, that these risk factors were much higher in females than in males. The next factor that influences wellness, I think, is sunshine, or, you know, your vitamin D. This was a study that was literally, or it was an article that was literally labelled "Insufficient sun exposure has become a real health problem." And it cited, you know, these particular figures that you can see in here. So insufficient sun exposure may be responsible for 340,000 deaths in the US and 480,000 deaths in Europe each year. And that insufficient sun exposure and that, you know, low vitamin D has then shown to have an increased risk of things like breast cancer, colorectal cancer, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, myopia, which is short-sightedness, asthma, allergies, respiratory infections, metabolic syndrome, MS, Alzheimer's disease, autism, and type 1 diabetes and other autoimmune conditions as well. Mental health is a huge area and simply cannot be understated. I've listed a few things here, but obviously Peter, being the expert, will obviously go through this in a lot more detail, but I've listed a few things that I felt were particularly important. So meaningful conversations, creative expression, work-life balance, taking time out for yourself, optimism, you know, things like that. And meditation was another one that I popped in there, and I've just got, this is just a study that I really like on meditation. So it was a meta-analysis of 10 different studies, and it showed that just meditation, meditation alone, there was a significant improvement in both psychological and physical quality of life, and that it reduced the risk of depression, it lowered cortisol, which is a stress hormone, it improved natural killer cell activity, which is a particular type of white blood cell that's heavily involved in obviously how strong the immune system is, and also one of the body's first line of defense against cancer, lowering blood pressure and reducing interleukin-6, which is an inflammatory marker. So that is just from meditation, which I thought was pretty cool. This one here is just a bit more of a summary that is what I've talked about really. So we know in life that there are things that we can change and there are things that we cannot change. So we can't change some of those, I guess, what we often call non-modifiable risk factors. So things like our age and our sex and our genes, but we can change the things that I've talked through tonight. So as I've mentioned, things like food and exercise and happiness and sleep and vitamin D and social interconnectedness all have an impact, not only on how we feel, but they also have an impact on our risk of chronic disease. Making sure that we're in the best state of health possible, that we get blood tests done periodically to make sure that all of our bloods are looking beautiful, that if we've got a genetic susceptibility, then we do whatever we can to either upregulate or downregulate those genes so it doesn't have such a deleterious effect on us. We don't have to accept the status quo. We can change, we can try to make ourselves healthier, and we can practice preventative medicine and reduce our risk of chronic disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. That was excellent, and really a good integrative approach to looking after one's health and wellness. And what I got out of it is really good health is not just absence of disease. It hits home. So prevention is better than a cure. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And I love meditation. And I'm just about to introduce Peter Webb, integrative psychologist, as well as a psychologist. Peter is trained as a naturopathic clinical medicine and is a leadership coach. He draws on a range of successful therapeutic approaches to help clients dissolve obstacles to achieve their goals and live well. A real pro at his craft. I welcome Peter, and he'll walk us through psychological well-being.
Thanks very much, Rob. It's a pleasure to join you tonight, and I've really delighted in the messages from my colleagues Lisa and Megan so far. So I hope to be able to add to those messages and share a little bit of wisdom about what it means to have psychological well-being. And I wanted to start off with a report that came out recently. Actually, it was reported in The Age just a few days ago. Do you know that researchers say Australians are entering an era in which remaining vital well into your 90s will be not just possible, but common. And in fact, your 80s may well deliver some of the best years of your life. The average lifespan of an Australian woman is now about 85, packing on 25 additional years in a century, meaning 1 in 2 women will reach this age or beyond. Are you one of those 2 women? Between 2000 and 2020, the number of Australians aged over 85 grew by 110%, compared with the national population growth of 35%. So a baby girl born today has an almost 40% chance of reaching 100. And as both Lisa and Megan pointed out, you better make sure that your latter years are vital and energetic and healthy, rather than in declining health. And we're just the people that you need to see to help you to achieve that. So Australians are living longer, but what does it take to reach 100 years old? Well, you've heard from my colleagues things like regular physical activity, having something meaningful that motivates you to get up every day, the idea of having rhythms and rituals that reduce stress. So we see different communities that are long-lived people are quite traditional there. Okinawa, Loma Linda, Italy, Greece. What do they do? What sort of rhythms and rituals do they have that lead them to have more 100-year-olds in their communities than other communities? Having a healthy plant-based diet that's low in meat, fish and dairy, and Megan has the expertise to be able to advise on that. Alcohol, but in very moderate amounts. Engaging in social groups that are focused around healthy activities. Religion seems to be good for life, or at least spirituality, but certainly because it encourages social connections, and rituals offer a stress-reducing dimension. And maintaining close relationships between family members turns out to be very important, which is what makes the COVID-19 pandemic all the crueler, because of it interferes with all of these elements of how we get to live to 100 years and beyond. But I want to talk about psychological well-being as a key element of what it takes to live to 100. And I want to reference Dr. Carol Riff and her model of psychological well-being, because that provides quite a powerful framework from which you can organize your life, the idea of psychological well-being. You might say, well, psychological well-being is the absence of mental health problems. No, psychological well-being means being well-connected. And in Carol's model, she's developed a 6-factor model of psychological well-being. And these 6 factors have been tested and challenged over the last decade or so, and have been found to be quite robust. In other words, if you apply these 6 factors of psychological well-being, you will almost certainly live to 100, perhaps beyond. So does this really matter? Can you really choose your longevity based on your psychological well-being? Well, what are the 6 factors that, that Carol talks about? Well, she talks about a thing called self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is a positive attitude towards yourself, acknowledging and accepting multiple aspects of yourself, including both the good and the bad qualities, and feeling positive about your past life, a very important element of psychological well-being. Personal growth is the feeling that you want and look forward to continued development, and you see yourself as growing and expanding. You're open to new experiences, you have the sense of realizing your potential, you see improvement in yourself and behavior over time, and you're prepared to change the ways that reflect more self-knowledge and effectiveness. Carol Riff says that purpose in life is a very important factor of psychological well-being. It means that you have goals in life and you have a sense of directedness. You feel there's meaning to your present and your past life, and you hold the beliefs that give life purpose and have aims and objectives for living. Having positive relations with others is very important. It means that you have warm, satisfying, trusting relationships with others. You're concerned about the welfare of others, and you're capable of strong empathy, affection, and intimacy. You understand the give and take of human relationships. Environmental mastery, which means that you have a sense of competence in managing the environment, controlling the complex array of external activities, making effective use of surrounding opportunities. You're able to choose or create context suitable to your personal needs and values. And finally, autonomy, which is the idea that you are self-determining and independent. You're able to resist social pressures, to think and act in certain ways, and to regulate behavior from within and evaluate yourself by personal standards. Now, Dr. Carol Riff has not only been talking about these 6 factors, but she's developed a way of measuring them. And there is a very handy self-test, self-evaluation of these 6 factors of psychological well-being. So you can find out quite quickly whether you are employing all 6 of these factors, or whether in fact you're not using some of these nearly enough. And if you're not using them nearly enough, it would be a good idea to have a conversation about how to actually improve one or more of these dimensions of psychological well-being. Now, to answer the question of, is psychological well-being good for your health? There's been some fascinating research recently. For example, a study of older women, around about 80,000 in fact, they were found to have significantly lower scores on 2 of these 6 factors of psychological well-being: purpose in life and personal growth. which is kind of surprising. It turns out that purpose in life and personal growth tend to decline as we age. We don't see as much personal growth because we don't have anything to grow into, we think. And we don't have much personal purpose in life because there's less of it left. But nonetheless, Carol Riff and others say that we can actually develop these dimensions and it can actually sustain us and help us to live long and prosper. It turns out that higher purpose in life is associated with reduced all-cause mortality, including reduced risk of cardiovascular events. That is, there's a close correlation between purpose in life and reduction of mortality. It's possible to see quite close connections between psychological well-being and comorbidities. For example, having a high level of psychological well-being seems to mitigate against elevated interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, both of which are markers for inflammation. And as we know, inflammation promotes conditions like Alzheimer's disease, and it promotes a whole host of problems in the body. Anything you can do to reduce these inflammatory markers is going to be good for your longevity. Just adopting some of these elements of psychological well-being can make all the difference. So I encourage you to actually seek out these measures of psychological well-being to find out where you are on the continuum towards aging gracefully to 100 plus, because the opportunity is there. I don't believe that any of you watching tonight are average in terms of your longevity. I think you're all superhumans and you take advantage of everything that we have to offer in a preventive health centre like NIIM. So it's my very great pleasure to have addressed you tonight to talk about the fact that psychological well-being will promote longevity and health, and to encourage you to seek out appropriate integrative psychological treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Really great insights, even in normal situations. You've provided much food for thought, and even more so during these challenging times. So thank you again for that. Our final speaker tonight is Dr. Gorata Mosweu, integrative GP. Gorata combines her role in emergency medicine as well as a GP. Her special interests include chronic fatigue, autoimmune conditions, women's health, arthritis, musculoskeletal issues, and nutritional advice. I'm looking forward to this, and her topic for tonight, which often is a topical, thought in our what we think about, is how do we get the best out of our GP? Welcome, Gorata. Now James will help us with beautiful, excellent.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gorata. I'm one of the doctors at NIIM. I'm grateful to be part of a great team at NIIM. And thank you for attending this webinar. I'm going to be presenting on how to get the best out of your general practitioner. The only way that you can get the best out of your general practitioner is actually having one, is having a regular GP. So statistics that do actually show that a lot of Australians do have a general practitioner who they actually see most of the time. So one of the steps that we can actually do to actually empower ourselves and as a step to achieve our health and well-being goals is actually making an appointment to seeing a GP. And at NIIM, one of the advantages of seeing an integrative general practitioner in NIIM is the fact that they blend the conventional and evidence-based complementary medicine, which actually it is a holistic approach, which aims at getting the best, which actually aims at just supporting the patient from every aspect of their life. How can you empower yourself as a patient prior to making a medical appointment, prior to seeing your GP? So one of the things is to just clarify why you want to see your GP. Just answer the question, why am I going to see them? And if you have a problem list, prioritize those problems. And just because the reason why is because the time with your GP is very short. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, it's 30 minutes, and at NIIM we're very privileged because we do have 1 hour sessions. And in terms of seeing your GP, bring previous history and medication list. If you don't have a medication list, bring all the medications to your appointment so that the GP can see what you're actually taking. The other thing that you can also do is just bring previous path results, any evidence that can support why you're there, like photos or a diary, like your exercise diary or food diary, that could help your GP. Be prepared to tell your GP about all your other health practitioners or allied health members that are actually involved in taking care of you. Be open and honest, because your GP is your prescriber, he's your confidant, and they are also your counselor. They are there to help you, and as a client, as a patient, you're protected by confidentiality. The holistic approach is always the best approach. Always make sure that when you do mention, like, even though you have a problem list, make sure that it is holistic. Mention exercise, mention your sleep, because those things do actually matter in terms of health. And always bring somebody to the appointment who can advocate for you, who can answer questions, who can ask questions on your behalf. And what to expect from a great GP, what to expect from seeing a NIIM GP. They will identify your agenda. They will ask you why you're visiting them. They will examine the area of concern if it is necessary. They will explain the problem and manage uncertainty. And in terms of walking with you, they walk alongside of you and they form a partnership with you and tailor the management to an individual. So they individualize each and like management. And they do follow you up as well. And if there's anything alarming from your results, if you've done a test, your GP will call you. So a great GP will call you to just follow you up. Another thing to expect from a great GP is that they will ask questions about your mental history, your social history, your spiritual sort of history, nutritional problems, hormonal problems, if there's any sleep, like medications, allergies, just a holistic approach. Everything that is actually can contribute to your health or whatever, anything that could be contributing to your symptoms. Clients with medical history, with no medical history, everyone still has a family history. That those things that we just come with, like you have a genetic history, you have a family history. I still do advise those people that actually don't have a medical history that feel really healthy to do go see that GP regardless. So normally the people within the ages of 20 and 30, I do advise them to go see that GP just to get an annual blood screen. Those might include a full blood count, electrolytes, liver function test, and cholesterol levels. And at NIIM, we do actually, for people, for everyone, for anyone, we do have something called an integrative health check, which is for everyone, and that uses a holistic approach where you are seen by a naturopath, an osteopath, medical doctor, psychologist, and a health coach. I'm just going to give an example of what to expect from a NIIM general practitioner if you are presenting with menopause symptoms. So basically, as a general practitioner who is interested in women's health, what I will do if I'm seeing a woman who's presenting with menopausal symptoms. I would take a really comprehensive menstrual history. I would go into the history of menopausal symptoms. I will ask them which of the symptoms is actually affecting their quality of life. And one of those is normally sleep disturbance. I'll go into their medical history and their risk factors for breast cancer, for osteoporosis, and also just see if there's any contradictions to actually for them having HRT. Also, I'll just make sure that that cervical and breast screening is up to date. I'll also assess whether they have a history of depression, anemia, hypothyroidism, which are actually symptoms or conditions that can actually mimic menopausal symptoms. Or if somebody is at that age and has these as their background history, they can affect how they feel when they actually get there. An example of menopause management from NIIM approach. This is actually individualized because everyone comes with a different symptoms. Next slide, James. So HRT is always an option. Most women come to NIIM normally because they're seeking complementary and alternative medical treatment. So, for example, if somebody is having mood and hot flashes, so the management might be antidepressant, because venlafaxine, there has been a study that shows that 75 milligrams of venlafaxine is actually equivalent to a really low dose of estrogen for treatment of hot flashes. But the alternative therapy for that is then John's wort, which is used to treat anxiety, insomnia, and depression in menopause. Other alternative therapies for menopause include valerian passion flower, vitamin D, vitamin E, red clover, black forest, ginseng, and other medications are happy hormones. Yeah, so those are my references. And thank you so much. And I hope that has actually empowered you to know what to do before you go see your GP. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gorata. And I can see that we've been struggling with the network, but you did really, really well. So thank you again. The topic was certainly stirred a lot of interest for me and for many of the attendees, but it's the clear message is engage and talk to your GP, and the more you share with them, the more feedback and support you'll get. So now we would like to open up with questions from attendees, which many of you have submitted online prior to this evening, and we've got 10 minutes. And we're well on time. There is what I'll do is I'll actually call out the questions that we've received online, and if we have the time, we'll process through a couple of the questions that we had for this chat. So thank you again for submitting those. I'm going to start with Megan. Megan, we've got a question here. How can we protect our immune system and help to prevent disease? Would you like to take that one?
Sure, that's a good question. Well, so there's lots and lots of different things. Obviously, I'm a big believer in individualized medicine. So therefore, looking at that patient and doing what's actually right for them based on how they're presenting and what's going on for them. However, I think that there are a number of different things that from I guess a nutritional or herbal perspective that we can do. So the number one would certainly be vitamin D. Like, more than 85% of the population these days are deficient in vitamin D. So it's a really, really powerful nutrient, and I've obviously discussed it in this evening's lecture anyway. But I think, making sure that those plasma levels of vitamin D are, exactly where they should be. Things like zinc actually is another really important nutrient, and I think for a lot of people they're actually quite deficient in zinc. I test it on a reasonably regular basis. And I'm always surprised that even though even my meat eating patients and so forth are often low in zinc, there's a whole heap of different herbs and so forth, from any of your medicinal mushrooms like your reishi and shiitakes and things like that, to astragalus and echinaceas and andrographis. So it kind of just depends as to what the person is kind of presenting with. I think if it's more of just a tonic and immune boosting, then I think I would potentially look at something like vitamin D, medicinal mushrooms and maybe zinc as a bit of a starter, and then go from, that's probably a good place to start. Hopefully that answers your question.
Excellent. No, that was quite insightful. Thank you for that. I'm going to go to Lisa next. It's actually a topical question. So Lisa, with ongoing lockdowns, I don't go to the gym. This is a question online. What can I do to help maintain fitness?
Okay. Thanks, Rob. So obviously this has been an ongoing issue for over a year now, probably 18 months, where we've had to be really adaptable because our normal exercise routines have been obviously severely disrupted because of COVID. So there, in terms of keeping your fitness levels up during this time, in terms of cardiovascular fitness, get outdoors. So walk, run, hike, whatever you can do. And that in itself is a much better environment than being within the gym itself. So for cardiovascular classes, get outdoors and do whatever you can outdoors. In terms of, for those of you that like going to actually classes, those group classes can be replaced with apps and videos. So there's a lot of apps and videos now that will cater for your specific needs. So that's an option if group classes are more so your thing. If strength training is more so your thing, obviously you can't get to the gym, but you can strength train at home with minimal equipment. So using things like home dumbbells and resistance bands to try and build that strength. So there are alternatives and not as exciting as your usual exercise classes, but it really has, this lockdown has really enabled us to I guess think outside the box and explore other exercise options to keep ourselves fit and healthy and sane during this time.
Thank you, Lisa. I tend to agree. I'm an outdoors guy and I love swimming even during winter. And it's I'm not suggesting everyone try it, but it's good advice. Peter, over to you. We heard about the importance of quality of sleep, and there is a really good question here. Can you suggest ways to de-stress, relax my mind, and achieve quality sleep?
Absolutely, it's a great question, and Megan touched on it too. How important sleep is, how it actually affects your physical health. It's really difficult, particularly during COVID and lockdown. You tend to get out of routine easily. You tend to wake up during the night. There's a sort of a low-grade hum of stress in the background. So it's really difficult to do that. But it's quite simple to set up routines. And you can do that behaviorally by taking a few very simple steps. Number one, make sure that you complete your pre-bedtime activities by a certain time each evening. Pre-bedtime activities, cleaning your teeth, doing all the things that you need to do. Put out the cat, all those sorts of things that you have to do. Make sure that you do that by a certain time each evening. Don't just sit up watching progressive reruns on Netflix just because you can't be bothered to get to sleep. So if you do that by a certain time each evening, and then you give yourself a little reward of some kind, like a cup of your favorite herbal tea. It could be a hot chocolate, could be a Milo, it could be anything. I mean, we advocate dark chocolate as actually having health benefits. So you could give yourself a little piece of chocolate. It's actually a great reward. By giving yourself a reward, you actually reinforce that behavior. And it means that you're going to go to sleep, or at least go to bed at the same time every evening, and establishing those rituals and routines are very, very important for getting effective sleep.
Excellent. I like the sound of that. Dark chocolate. I think you said dark chocolate.
I did.
Thank you, Peter. I've got a question here that I think Gorata will want to take. Which regular blood tests are important to determine my health and why? Gorata, would you like to take that question?
Sure. For somebody, it's individualized. However, if somebody is coming to see me and they're really well, and I would suggest for them to have annual bloods, and that will include full blood count, electrolytes, UNEs, which is just looking at that kidneys, and liver function tests, and a thyroid function test. Those are the four main sort of tests that I would do. And these just gives me an overview of how they are doing. So the full blood count sort of gives me an idea of whether they are anemic, what their white cell count is doing, which sort of goes back, taps into their immunity. Your liver and your kidneys, they work hard each and every day because they actually clean out the system. Your thyroid function, your thyroid actually works hard. You have thyroxine, which is really important for physiological function, minute and really big ones. So if your thyroid is really affected, that you would actually be very symptomatic. And in terms of, what was the other one? So there was the other one. So those are the four main sort of tests that I would actually do for somebody who's actually well. However, if somebody is unwell and has a particular symptom, I would actually add more, and that would include imaging as well.
Thank you, Gorata. Thanks for that. I think we've got a couple of more questions that we can work through. I'd like to go back to Lisa. So Lisa, what are your suggestions for coping with pain and stiffness? Hopefully we can get that car moving, I think. Also, how can I help my posture spending many hours sitting at a computer, Zoom meetings like this one, etc.? Would you like to take that one, Lisa?
Thank you, Rob. As you can see, I am absolutely terrible at sitting, and hence the fact that I was quite, what did you say, James? He said I was moving a bit too much during this, but I'm not very good at sitting still. And I think a lot of people have that same issue. So in terms of the best thing that you can do is, I mean, obviously I'm not going to go through the ergonomics of how to set up your desk, but that's something that we do go within practice. We can go through, take you step by step through how to best set up your desk space. But the most important thing is breaking regularly, taking regular breaks away from that seated posture. Now, seated posture is, unfortunately, it's really become a way of life now with Zoom and everything. And recent studies actually showed that that sitting for a 5-minute period showed an increase in your plasma triglycerides, your LDL cholesterol, and insulin resistance. And also, if you look at the calorie burning as well, when we're sitting, you average about a calorie a minute you can burn. A slow walk would be about 4 calories a minute. So it really slows down all of our body functionings by sitting for prolonged periods. So the key is really getting up and moving and doing it frequently. And it doesn't have to be long breaks, but short breaks every 20 minutes to get up and get that blood flow, get the blood flow moving, stretch out your muscles, and detox those tissues. So regular movement and avoiding just sitting at your desk for 12 hours a day. Get up every 20 minutes, walk around, even if it's only for 5 minutes, and get those tissues moving.
Thank you. That was really good advice, Lisa. I'm still hearing about that car analogy. So good suggestions. I've got a question for Peter. I'm becoming increasingly anxious and fearful. How can I keep positive with all that's happening in the world? Peter, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, well, that's that goes to the heart of what I do at NIIM, actually, and what I've seen during the various lockdowns that we've been through here in Melbourne and Australia-wide is this low-grade form of post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, that people really are traumatized by this, and very often you don't notice it because it builds up incrementally. But trauma is insidious. It has a habit of getting into every aspect of life. You can break its banks in terms of stressful outbursts, but that deep-seated trauma is quite pervasive. And actually, when you think about it, we are going through a once-in-a-generation experience with this global pandemic. We're still going through it, and it may be another year or year and a half before we're out of it as a planet. And this actually, things are not going to go back to the way they were. Things will change for better or for worse, but it's accepting the reality of what we're in, which is part of healthy psychological well-being. But I would say this, that what's really important to do is to create your own island of sanity. So you can't change the world as it is. You can't change the craziness going on. But if you create your own island of sanity around your family or your community, or just gathering together those that you feel are part of this island of sanity, then you can do something to protect yourself. And it's really important that you focus more inward and create that island that you can actually stay protected in.
I like that advice, Peter. An island that we can all travel to if we create it ourselves. Thank you. Thanks for that. I'd like to go back to Megan. Megan, we've got a question. What supplements can we take to support us during these challenging times?
Right, another big question. So I guess it depends as to like whether it's to do with immunity or whether it's to do with sleep or whether it's to do with, there's obviously a lot of people that are suffering from, you know, flatter mood and depression throughout all of this, or anxiety. So I think it entirely depends as to, did the person asking the question give you any further
No, they did. No,
or do you
they
want me
didn't.
to just pick one?
No, they didn't. So it was really to support us during these challenging times. I'm assuming it's to do with, you know, we're in lockdown. We want to maintain mental health and physical health when we can't really move around. So, and we've got a lot on our mind. So I'm assuming that would be probably the motivation behind the question.
Right. Okay. So, look, I guess if it's sleep, then as Peter said, it's creating those sleep hygiene practices. There's a number of different herbs and so forth that we can utilize to help us sleep better and help us to relax better. And then some of these, you know, I guess sleep herbs we can also use during the day if someone's getting quite anxious and so forth as well. So they can be used, you know, as smaller doses during the day and higher doses of a nighttime. If it's immunity, then we've kind of, you know, touched on a little bit of that before. If it's energy levels, then, you know, obviously physical activity is going to be really important. But again, you know, part of that lack of energy and motivation can be to do with, you know, what we're going through at the moment. So it can be lower serotonin or lower dopamine levels, in which case it might be things like St. John's wort or SAMI or rhodiola or withania. It's a bit hard to kind of give you enough, because it's quite.
So what I'm hearing is they should set up some time and come and see you, I guess.
I don't mean to like be like that, but it's a very tricky question to just say, you know, just mention kind of like herbs are amazing and we can do so many fabulous things and we can, you know, absolutely make things better, but it's just about using those herbs or those nutrients in the right situations rather than just saying, oh, look, valerian's really good, so take valerian. Like if valerian works, then fabulous, that's brilliant. But if it doesn't, then there's plenty of other options.
Okay, that's really good advice. So whatever works for you, thank you for that. We've gone a little bit over, and it was just to make sure that everyone gets a chance to, we get as many questions out. Thank you, everyone, for your thought-provoking questions. And I know there is quite a lot that we've captured in the chat. Also, I just want to reiterate what we've discussed in the chat, that this webinar is being recorded and that the link will be sent out post the event. On behalf of NIIM, I would like to thank all of our 4 speakers. Thank you, everyone, for generously investing their personal time to create such informative talks and for presenting tonight. I certainly learned quite a few things. In the future, NIIM will be launching our new integrative health check program, which will feature these 4 clinicians, as well as a health coach. This program is designed to help you achieve your health and well-being goals for optimal health now and in the future. And I've been through the experience about 5 years ago, and it was definitely a good investment on health. NIIM is a non-for-profit organisation, and we receive no government funding for our life-changing work. If you're able to help us and support us, your contributions will be greatly appreciated. Tax-deductible donations can be made via the NIIM website. Again, the website is in the invite, www.niim.com.au. And finally, on behalf of NIIM, our best wishes to one and all. Thank you all for joining us online. We know that you took some time from your evening, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Until next time, a warm and good evening to you all.